Tax season is coming up. Has anybody done their taxes yet? Everybody enjoying those huge tax breaks from the GOP tax bill? You know, the ones that were promised in there? Now, people that I know that have done their taxes, or that haven't done their taxes yet, I'm starting to hear things that people are actually paying more in taxes than they were last year. Wouldn't surprise me, but right now it's hearsay. Me personally, my income situation changed last year, so it's hard for me to gauge whether or not I paid more or less. So, in light of all this, I decided, I wonder if I can come up with a way of doing taxes that solves some of the problems. But of course, you solve some problems, you create others. But I wanted to kind of come up with an income tax scheme that would be more fair and equitable. So here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to show you the equations I came up with. Then we're going to freak out together because, you know, we can do this stuff together, right? Then I'm going to show you the graph that represents how the equations work. And then I'm going to go through the equations and explain everything to you. Okay, so, you ready? Here comes the equation. Ready? Okay, wait for it. Wait for it. I know this is really high-tech shit, right? Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait. Okay, some of you are saying, what the fuck? Okay, that's fine, you know. Just wait for it. Okay. Ready? Ready for the freak out? Oh my god! Math! No! High school didn't prepare me for this. Oh wait, it did. Okay, so now that we got the freaking out part over with, let's go on to the graph. So this is what this series of equations is designed to do. To give a tax scheme that's something like this. Now this is based in percentage, whereas the equations are based in numbers, but you can kind of see what happens here. Well, really you can see what happens here because graphs are easy to look at when they're properly labeled. So down this part, you don't pay any income tax. In this part, you're paying a slight amount of income tax, and you pay more income tax as you make more money. But you never pay 100% of your income tax. The reason why I came up with this is because we have a system. There's a few reasons. So one thing that this does is when you have different tax brackets, there's a jump in people's taxes. And I've seen people that, you know, they're working a job, they're working overtime, and all of a sudden they're paying a shitload more taxes, and they're uncertain about what they're bringing home. So this gets rid of those jagged edges, I'll call them. The other thing is you have a lot of situation. Well, let's face it. There's a huge disparity between what people are making, and this helps to mitigate that, or you know, not make it so pronounced and damaging. I mean, you even have people that run like not-for-profit businesses, you know, charities, but the president makes a shitload of money because they just pay themselves all the money, and they technically are not-for-profit that way. So that's another thing this seeks to eliminate. So let's talk about what all this means. Okay, so I want to show you this again really quick. So you see, I tell what the different variables represent. You have I as your income. Okay, let me use a pointer. Be all fancy with my low tech. Okay, so I is your income, T is your tax due, and yes, my hands shake. You're gonna have to deal with that. D is deductions. The Greek letter mu is your arithmetic mean. That's you take up all the numbers, you add up all the numbers, and then you divide by how many numbers you are. And no, I'm not going to test this out because I'm not going to try and get a couple 100 million people's tax information. Sigma is the standard deviation, and what you do is you take every number, you subtract the arithmetic mean, square it, then you take the mean of all those numbers, and that's your standard deviation. That's something you probably didn't learn in high school. That's statistics, which is fine. So, knowing that mu is the arithmetic mean, here you go. Look, see where it is on the graph? Okay? And here you have the mean plus the standard deviation. So you can kind of think of the standard deviation as the average between the average point and the end points. That's an oversimplified way of explaining it. But the problem is here, when you get to this part of the graph, you don't really have an endpoint. So you kind of have to go off of this and whatever income happens to be the highest. Here I didn't want it to fluctuate so much, so that's why I just put it in the mean over 2. So let's go through the equations. So if you make very little money, you don't have to pay any taxes. What a concept, you know. Pretty sure tax law was like that a while ago. So here, your income minus your deductions. Deductions meaning stuff like, first off, let me say that one thing I tried to incorporate into this, which is kind of hard to do, is the fact that people, the cost of living changes around the country. So things that would have to be in the deductions would be based off how much rent you pay, how much property tax you pay, also student loan payments, you know, college payments, whatever. But you know, with student loan payments, if we make college free, then that would be taken care of, and this could be less detrimental potentially. And keep in mind, this whole thing is just a framework and a thought experiment anyway, so it's not really like this fucking matters. It's just something to talk about. Okay, so here. So that, your income minus whatever your deductions are. So you're always going to have a minimum amount of money that you keep. 0.5. So if you're in, what that means is if you're in this area here, between this range, you're never going to pay more than half of your taxes. So here's where it gets fun. So income minus the mean over 2. Well, if your income is equal to the mean over 2, well, then this whole thing is 0. Anything times 0 is 1,000,000. We all know that. No, I'm kidding. Anything times 0 is 0. You pay 0 taxes. You see how I'm eliminating the jagged edges here? If this equals this, meaning you get over to this end, well, then this equals 1. You pay 50% taxes. Now here we have E, Euler's number, 2.718 roughly. Okay, this is used for, you know, the natural number. So natural things that occur naturally in, you know, the bell curve, you know, that thing. That's the number that. What's the word I wanted to say? That's the number that accentuates that curve, or identifies that curve. Not really identifies. It's a number present in that curve. Okay. So what happens is, all right, well, if this equals this, okay, if your income equals this, just like this over here would equal 1, well, this over here would equal 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1,000,000. Again, I'm kidding. Anything to the 0 power is 1. You should know this. You've been through fucking high school. Okay, so that's that one. So if you're at this end, it's your income minus your deductions times 0.5 times 1 times 1. If you're at this end, it's, well, this becomes 0 and this is all 0. And in between, you get this right here. Okay, you get a curve that looks like this. It's called exponential growth. Now, this part. Here you have incomes minus deductions minus the mean times all this junk over here. So what this part right here does is make it so that you never have to pay all of your money in taxes. But you're limited to a percentage outside of your deductions. You're limited to a percentage based off whatever the mean is. So the more everybody makes, the more you make. If you make significantly more than everybody else, well, guess what? You're going to have to pay more in taxes. So here's where you can see that this is designed to fill socialist and capitalist needs in our economy. Okay, and I'll talk about socialism and capitalism at some point and let you know, like, how I view everything, you know, economy-wise, as far as those two things are concerned. So again, this is making sure you never pay 100% of your money in taxes. You still have your income minus your deductions, which is just like here, but also this is to prevent you from paying everything. This prevents it from reaching 100% of your income. So here, what this is, again, this over this, if they're equal, that equals 1. This will equals, if this over this equals 1, that becomes 0. Wait, did I put that upside down? No, I didn't. Okay. So if your income, okay, so if this is 1 and this is 1, then 1 minus a half, 1 minus a half is 100 million. Again, I'm lying to you. This is 1 minus a half is 0.5. So if the bigger your income gets compared to this, well, this fraction becomes smaller. Remember, if the numerator stays the same in the fraction and the denominator gets bigger, then the overall value of the fraction gets smaller. So this gets smaller, this gets smaller, the bigger this fraction becomes because you're subtracting by a larger number, and then any exponent to a negative power becomes reciprocal of that of the base. Okay, and reciprocal base means a fraction, means you're multiplying by a fraction, means you're multiplying by less than 1, and therefore a number gets smaller. So this 0.5 gets smaller and smaller the higher your income gets. So it's 1 minus 0.5. So it's 1 minus a number that gets smaller and smaller. So 1 minus 0.5 is, when this is 1, 1 minus 0.5 is 1. If the income gets bigger and say this becomes equal to 0.4, well, 1 minus 0.4 is 0.6. 1 minus 0.7, or sorry, 1 minus 0.3 is 0.7. Okay? So that's what gives you this curve over here, and that's why it curves down. Well, it curves downward because of the exponential growth. Well, in this case, it's decaying growth. So that's my equation. It's not perfect, but that's okay. That's what critiques are for, and besides, it's just a framework, anyways. And again, the reason why I came up with this was because, you know, I fucking hate it when I say, you know, we got to do something about the income inequality and how we are going back to a monarchy with nobilities. And this is how, you know, currently in the situation that we're in with the GOP tax bill, this is how it starts. This is how nobilities and monarchies are formed, is by taking money away from the people and putting it towards a few. An economy is only strong as long as money keeps circulating in that economy. And if people hoard money, then money is not circulating in that economy, and the economy fails. Okay, this is basic common sense. Okay, well, not basic common sense, basic economics. So yeah, all right, that's that. And I'll talk about capitalism and socialism at some other time.